Hi, welcome back. In this screencast, we're going to go over the StreamSets data collector configuration for bulk loading from a relational database to Cassandra. The way we need to start is importing the pipeline. So we'll import this JSON file here, and we'll move immediately to the designer. Now we're going to go over in this screencast the configurations of each one of these stages, but before we do, let's do an assumption check. I'm assuming you've used StreamSets data collector before. This is a more advanced tutorial. I would say it's intermediate to advanced. So if this is your first time using StreamSets data collector, as mentioned in the tutorial notes, I would come to the StreamSets.com website and at least complete one basic tutorial to get yourself started, to get your feet wet, as they say. Now, also, all the source from this tutorial is available from my GitHub repo. So, for example, that JSON file that I just imported is available at Cassandra Ingest. Let's come back then to our data collector. We're able to look at the most relevant stages, if you will, of this particular pipeline. Again, let's just cover the interesting points from a source, destination, and as it relates to a database and Cassandra. Let's start here over on the left with our JDBC multi-table consumer. We're going to configure it for a few different ways. We're going to configure it for particular table patterns. In this case, we're just looking for the users and movies tables. We set up our JDBC connection. I'll show you this in a second. We're using parameters, global parameters in this pipeline, which makes our pipeline more adaptable to different environments. To set these global variables, click anywhere on the canvas. I clicked here, go to parameters, and you'll see these default settings. You'll need to adjust these for your environment. Which reminds me, by the way, this JDBC database setup, that is here, and in the GitHub repo, if you go under data, you've got an entire MySQL dump and the tables themselves with insert statements. Okay, so back here to the pipeline. We've got global parameters that we are going to use throughout this pipeline. Here's the defaults. You can override these if you're going to need to override these for your environment. JDBC multi-table. This could be any JDBC database. We're using MySQL here. Let's see, where do I go from here? How about this? You need to have the driver uploaded. So if you click over here under external libraries, you'll see that I have the MySQL jar uploaded and it's associated with this library. How do you do that? I'll show you. Go up here to Package Manager. Here's one way. Go under External Libraries, click Upload. You'll choose JDBC, and then you'll browse to your jar. You need to do that for JDBC as well as the MySQL bin log, but we'll cover that in a later screencast. Okay, back to our pipeline. We have our source all set up. We're filtering just for a couple of tables, and we've got our JDBC driver ready to go. We've also got the idea that we're going to produce events for this particular origin, and why we want to do that is this is a batch pipeline. We want to run this just once for historical purposes, and once all the data is loaded, we want to stop it. So we do that through this construct in StreamSets called events. So we're going to have the origin produce events, and then we'll configure a pipeline finisher, executor, to stop when there's no more data. All right, so far so good. Let's move left to right. We're going to add some metadata through the expression evaluator. We're going to do some things like created at an operation type. Because this is bulk load, we're going to set the operation type to 1 to indicate it's all brand new inserts. We'll convert a particular field to integer. This is the operation type one because it was coming through as long before, and in our Cassandra destination we have that field set to int. Next we're going to come to a stream selector, and we're going to take a, this is your case switch if you come from a programming background. So you're going to check for some variable values, like if the table's coming through as movies, go to branch 1, users branch 2, and if it's neither of these things, we'll just disregard it. Let's take a look at a particular branch. Let's go to branch 1 where we know the record coming through, flowing through is a movie record. What do we want to do then? We're going to run a query. And the query we're going to run is to look up a UUID from the movie UUID table. Now, why are we doing that? Well, in our MySQL source, you'll see our primary key is an auto-incrementing field, common in relational data stores, but doesn't work so well when our destination is Cassandra. So I created a couple of tables here that maps movie IDs to UUIDs, and we're going to use that then when we insert into Cassandra. Let's take a look at that in particular. So this is our Cassandra destination. We're going to configure things like our contact points, port. Now, I'll call out, this is interesting for those of you using DataStax versus open source Cassandra. If you're using DataStax, StreamSets can use the username and password and Kerberos available in DSE. You'll need to upload the DSE driver for the Cassandra destination in order to do that, and just follow our docs to do that. By the way, just click this help link and it will take you directly to the particular stage documentation. Okay, so back now to our pipeline. We are not using authentication. I'm running just open source Apache Cassandra locally. And you see we've got some different configuration options here. I've parameterized the schema, but then we're going to land this in the movies table to these particular fields, from the record, the incoming record, to the Cassandra column name. I think that about does it for one particular path through this pipeline. I would suggest that you look at all of these in more detail later on. As you can see, we're landing in different tables based on the incoming data. What else is interesting here? This might be interesting for some of you concerned about performance. Now, we are not going to over-optimize for performance in this tutorial, but we do have caching enabled on these JDBC lookup stages. So if we see a user ID or a movie ID that we've processed in the past, we'll be able to cache that. So that's good. And we could add other types of caching in the future too, like Redis, etc. Let's see, I think that about covers it. Yeah, that covers it for now. Let me know if you have any comments or questions about this. Be happy to dive in further. But this is the configuration then for our initial bulk load. Again, this is a batch. This is configured for batch. And hopefully this gets you started with running it in your environment and customizing it for your environment. See you in the next video where we talk about streaming pipelines from a changed data capture source. See you then.